Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the 1001 Movies podcast. This time I'll be talking about Jean-Luc Godard's 1967 film, Weekend. Jean-Luc Godard is one of a handful of French New Wave filmmakers that premiered with his 1959 film Breathless. He had an anti-Hollywood attitude towards filmmaking, and the bizarre images and plots of his films certainly reflect that. In Weekend, for instance, he uses long, static shots during prolonged psychological monologues, and more than once the two main characters comment nonchalantly about the fact that they're actually performing in a film. Godard's films are also Brechtian in nature, which means he uses the medium to express his Marxist ideals. Weekend is the final of 15 films he made in the 1960s, and after shooting and finished, he told his loyal crew to look for other work as he was going to focus his energy on bringing the plight of students and the working class to film. In fact, in 1968, after 2 million French workers went on strike, Godard demanded that the Cannes Film Festival be shut down because it didn't feature any films expressing the plight of the working class. Weekend is certainly no exception to Godard's style. The plot is simple. A bourgeois middle-class couple who happen to be plotting each other's murders travel cross-country to attend the bedside of the wife's dying father. Whether or not they get there in time before he passes is irrelevant. They're primarily concerned with his inheritance. On the way, they encounter Tom Thumb and Emily Bronte in a forest clearing, a solemn pianist in a farmyard, French revolutionaries from the past, and finally, present-day revolutionaries. The film ends with the husband being murdered by the cannibalistic revolutionaries, and the final shot is of his wife consuming him. The consumer has himself become consumed. Now, this sounds like a lot of spoilers, but as with most French New Wave films, it's really not about the plot, but about the visual and emotional, or in this case, lack of emotional experience. The couple's mutual plot to murder each other, for instance, is casually mentioned earlier in the film. Neither one of them executes their plan. It's a point that isn't used to create suspense a la Alfred Hitchcock, but simply to show the vapid existence of these two people. Godard believed the roads were clogged with stupid, dangerous drivers, and I really can't think of any other film that drives this point across better. The landscape of this film is not unlike that of an episode of The Walking Dead, but without the zombies. Wrecked cars litter the roadsides, the corpses of their unfortunate drivers lie nearby. In one scene, the couple attempts to ask directions of one corpse, only to suddenly realize that these people are, in fact, dead. They show no emotion or anxiety about this. In fact, the only moment of emotion comes from the wife when their car is destroyed in a burning heap and she realizes she lost her designer handbag. Weekend is perhaps most famous for the 10-minute tracking shot of a traffic jam, with the couple angrily driving by it, heckling the working-class stiffs at the wheels of the stopped cars. As they pass a multitude of cars for what seems like an eternity, we see the cause of the jam. A car has fatally crashed, and the corpses of the dead family have been laid out beside the road. It's a jarring reminder of Godard's opinion of the bourgeois, going on with their shallow lives despite the tragedies of those less fortunate. Weekend was Godard's last major film. He went on to make some short documentaries after declaring himself a Maoist, and in 1980 he filmed a lyrical film called Slow Motion, which he declared, quote-unquote, his second first film, and he continues to make films today. But it was the 8 years between Breathless and Weekend that he'll be remembered for. Now, what did I think of Weekend? And admittedly, this isn't something I would recommend to most people because of its unconventional pace and plot. Nevertheless, watching it is an experience. The film does become incredibly pedantic and boring in spots. When it was released, some critics recommended that audiences step outside for a coffee during the prolonged scene featuring two philosophical trashmen. The scene was incredibly boring to watch for me, and near the end, even the cannibalistic revolutionaries were struggling to keep my attention. Still, I'm glad I saw it, and would recommend it to anyone interested in experiencing French New Wave. However, I doubt I'll be pulling this DVD off my shelf for a repeat viewing anytime soon. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything I needed to say about Weekend. Stay tuned for episode 5, in which I'll be talking about Mel Brooks' 1974 comedy, Blazing Saddles.